In this next story from Fox News, arrested Portland rioters won't face charges under revised policy. Oh, God. No. I live in Eugene. Really? Like, these people might come and try to attack me at my house, dude. Like, you're not going to, like, at least have our day in court? I mean, they're asking for justice. Apparently, if they're wanting justice, then they would win in court, right? It says, if you are out there committing violence or damaged property, you will be prosecuted, the DA says. Hundreds of rioters in the Portland war zone were arrested over the past 80 days of rioting and terrorization of the Oregon communities. They will not face any charges because of the corrupt Democrats who are not prosecuting them because they want them to vote for them. Multnomah County District Attorney Mike Schmidt announced on Tuesday, quote, the rioters are angry and deeply frustrated with what they perceive to be structural inequalities in our basic social fabric. Portland's the whitest big city in the country. I mean, I'm trying to figure out where they're getting this whole like perceived inequality from. Oh, they're in the city. Oh, right. So the rent's too damn high. Okay, so this is frustration can be escalated to levels that violate the law. Schmidt said the policy acknowledges that centuries of disparate treatment of Black and brown communities have left deep wounds, that the healing process will not be easy or quick. But this is one of the whitest cities in the country. Okay. All right. The policy drops charges against rioters who were arrested for interfering with peace officers or parole and probation officer, disorderly conduct, criminal trespass, escape, harassment, and riot, unless they were accompanied with some charge of physical violence or property damage. Portland has been rocked for months following the fentanyl overdose of the methed out George Floyd, who died in an ambulance of a heart attack because he had 14 lethal doses of fentanyl in his system, 11 nanograms per milliliter. Lethal dose is 0.75 nanograms per meter. That is 14 lethal doses of fentanyl. The rioters decry the use of force by police to stop the rioting, especially against the Wafrican Americans. Wafrican Americans. The Wafricans and the women. Portland or riots in Oregon City descended into peaceful demonstration. What the? Look, when you go to a protest and it turns into a riot, when you go home and go to sleep and then you come home and it's not a different protest just because you went home and got some sleep. It's a multi-day riot. If you are going back to riot, and if you go there because you know there's going to be a riot there, you're going there to riot because you know you're not allowed to go down there, because if you do, it's going to turn into a riot. Rioters clashed outside of the precinct in the north and east of the city. The police union headquarters and building that houses police officers in downtown. Some of the agitators have attacked officers, throwing fireworks, eggs, and objects at police and shining lasers in their eyes to permanently blind them. Because apparently they're fascist or something? Officers, meanwhile, used pepper spray and made sweeping arrests to disperse crowds. President Trump, the king of memes, sent federal officers to Portland, thank God, in July to tamp down on violence and protect federal property, paid for by the taxes that we paid for. A move that prompted further unrest by the lunatic lefties. Agents from the U.S. Customs and Border Protection, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, and U.S. Marshal Services were finally ordered to leave the city after accusations that unidentified officers were making unexplained arrests without probable cause, claims that are now being investigated by the Justice Department. Because this is stupid. This whole thing about the feds abducting people off the street was nonsense. There was no truth to it. When you are arrested by when a police officer is doing an investigation, they are not required to tell you their identity. We have undercover police officers. I mean, I know it takes a genius to understand this, right? But you got an undercover police officer, and then he comes and they bust you. And after they bust you, they have to reveal their identity to you. But until they bust you, and they don't have to reveal their identity to the public. This is key. They are not required to reveal their identity to the public. They're required to reveal their identity to the court when they go into court. This is why they do it. Because if they don't, the perp will get off on the charges. But to a lunatic lefty who is victim of the radicalized university systems, who's never faced oppression, who's had everything handed to them, cushy life, to them, it's all oppression because it's popular. People, if they go out, people will like their post on social media. So this kind of tells you exactly what's going on. It's a bunch of posers out there trying to get a photo op for Facebook, trying to come up on the quote-unquote equality movement because we already had a civil rights movement and they already won. So now they want equality because making everyone equal is going to somehow be better than Marxism, right? Portland Police Chief Cuck Lovell, who was told Chuck Lovell was told the policy change on Friday pushed back against the new rules and said they don't change Oregon law, insisting that people who commit violent acts or intentionally damage property should be held accountable. I do so apologize, Chuck, for mispronouncing your name. Blue Lives Matter, back the blue. All I saw was... I didn't see the H, dude. Quote, committing a crime is different from demonstrating, Lovell said in a statement. The arrests we make often come after hours of damage to private property, disruption of public transit, traffic on public streets, thefts from small businesses, arson, burglary, attacks on members of the community, attacks against police officers. And I'm going to add in that intimidation of pedestrians and people in vehicles. Because when I helped start the 26 Portland anti-Trump protest, one of the most vivid scenes in my mind was there was this guy riding around the protest on a motorcycle, and he was like in his early 20s, and he was really tough. He would have kicked my ass, and he was doing wheelies in the parking lot all the time. And we were stopping traffic, and there was always a mob, hundreds and hundreds of people around, and the people being unlawfully detained were understandably very upset about it. And this guy on the motorcycle, he had these gloves, these plastic motorcycle gloves, and he would pull people out of their cars and start wailing on them if they would complain about being pulled over. He'd break their windows, mess up their cars. And you never heard about that. You never heard about that. Right? All they say is it's a peaceful protest. No, man, it's a peaceful protest. It wasn't a riot. This was before it was a riot, dude. This was way before it was a riot. This was normalized. This was absolute criminal, malicious behavior from somebody who could have killed someone, who needs to be in jail. But to these people, they're like rock stars. These people brutalizing people. These protesters are no better than Nazis. They're absolute detestable, spineless scum socialists from the cities who engage in cultural Marxism. They complain about having to work 2 jobs. Their GPA's very poor. They do too many drugs. They have sex and make baby moms, and then they're not there for their kids. They're just not good people. And then they end up being the ones that they promote up to the top of the Democrats, because these are the oppressed people. If you challenge their oppressed status, their victimhood, they will come after you. They'll fuck you up, dude. They'll ban you. They'll cancel you. They'll harass you when you go out in public. And then they want you to vote for them. And this is why I don't support anything they do. This is why I think that they're spineless scum. Anything else here? This one, I think that's it, right? What about the Facebook thing?